Hi guys, can you?
Hi guys.
Hey, so welcome everyone to this POPxo Live. It's the first that I'm doing, so hopefully there won't be any technical glitches and such. I'm still trying to get the hang of it, but I hope there are a few of you out there who have your wine glasses with you. I hope I'm not the only one starting my Friday night early. I can view comments. So if you're here and if you have a question at any point, or if you have your glass of wine at the ready, yeah, leave me a comment and let me know. So the idea of today's live is about how to buy for whenever we are allowed out of the house, or for whenever we get to buy, how to buy wine and how to store it at home, and what of your collection is it time to sort of pull out and start to drink now. So I've had a bunch of questions come to me over this lockdown period, with people asking me whether they're bootleggers that are trying to sell them decent wine, or if it's an older wine than it should be. And we'll deal with some of those questions today over the course of the live. But like I said, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And yeah, time for some wine care. And that's how we'll go about it. Okay. Also, let me know what you have been drinking. If you have been drinking a fair amount of wine, if your stash is running low, how things are going at home. So we'll start with buying wine. So when you start to buy wine, first a sip. So let's start with cheers. And now we'll go into buying wine. Whenever you get a chance to buy wine next, always look for a clean label. Okay, so make sure the label of your bottle is clean. It's not overly damaged. Typically, what you would be buying from retail stores or wine stores in India are not exceptionally old bottles of wine, and so they should be in a good visual condition. Also, look at the cork. So for a bottle like this, which has a cork closure, if you can see this one is raised a little. So the cork is sort of like almost pushing out, and it's broken through the seal, even though it hasn't been opened, right? What it should look like is something like this. So this is a flat top, and then this one you can see is pushing out against the foil. This means that this bottle is not in great condition. Okay, it's not something that you should buy if that's when you're buying it, unless maybe you're willing to like drink it immediately and you don't have a choice. But otherwise, look for something like this, which has a clean, complete seal, and it's not raised or bulging anywhere. Yeah. Okay. The next thing to notice on a bottle of wine, right? On every bottle, either up front. So if you can see here, it says 2011. This one has it on the back label, and it says 2015. So every bottle of wine, almost every bottle of wine, will have a year which is called the vintage. And the vintage is essentially the year that all of the grapes are collected, are harvested, and then subsequently the wine is made. So what might be released in 2019 would have grapes from 2018, and so it would be the 2018 vintage, right? Now, not all wines are meant to age, and I know there's this common misconception that old wine is better. But some wines are just made to be drunk young and fresh, and to remain, zesty and fruity. So it's not just about like if someone gives you a bottle or you buy a bottle, don't just stick it away and say, okay, I'm going to open it 5 or 10 years later. In all likelihood, it's not going to taste as good as it should taste, right? Most inexpensive entry mid-level wines are typically made to be drunk between 1 to 3 years, and not to age longer than that. There are certain countries, certain areas within those countries that do make wines that can age 10 years, 20 years, etc. But that's going to be an expensive wine, and that's not typically something that you'll get in most Indian retail stores. Always ask for help if you're not sure. I know it's harder to get here in India, but if you're buying your wine abroad, then the sommelier on the floor or someone on the amongst the aisles will be able to direct you a little better, or a quick Google search. Okay, if you're really into your wine, then there are a couple of apps that you just have to sort of take a screenshot of the label, and it'll tell you what kind of wine it is, what the rating of it is, when is a good time to drink it, and things like that. Okay. Now, another misconception. People always think that wines with cork closures, so with the foil, are always better than wines with screw caps. Okay, which is this. Let me show you a brighter one, maybe. There. So that's a screw cap. And here is the cork. It's not true that wines with corks are always more expensive or that they are better quality. Okay, it's completely not true. There are many countries in the world that actually prefer screw caps, and their top wines, like this one, for instance, is a brand called Penfolds, which is one of the best known Australian top brands. And they have, like, almost all their wines have screw caps. Wines from Austria, wines from New Zealand as well, very often their premium wines also tend to have screw caps. Okay, so don't go by the notion that it's just the corks that make sense, or when you're buying it for someone, or when you're buying it for yourself. And in fact, screw caps are a lot hardier and a lot easier to use, to open, to use at home. If you're carrying the bottle out for a picnic, then you don't have to carry a wine opener. So yeah, consider that. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if any of this is making sense. Yeah, another quick sip. Okay, so while I'm at it, maybe let's do this. Wine etiquette, although we may deal with this separately. When you're holding a glass of wine, always hold it from the stem. Okay, so you either hold it like that, or you hold it from the base like that. Never hold it here at the bowl. Typically, it is because your body temperature, the heat from your body, the warmth from your body is going to transfer into the wine and warm your wine a lot faster than it should. But also it allows you the space to be able to sort of swirl. Don't be worried if you can't swirl. It's something that comes with time and practice. A quick tip for you to know and consider: always keep your elbow sort of tucked in and steady, and then it's all in the wrist, guys. So it's all in the wrist. Okay, so keep your elbow straight, keep your hand straight, and just move your wrist. And this is another way to do it. Place it firmly on the table, 2 hands on either side of the stem, and just go round. So try and keep the stem in the same spot, and you're just going down. Yeah, there. It's a quick, easy trick. Okay, for storing wines at home. When I said storing wines at home, I think a lot of people assumed it was about what if I open a bottle and then there's something left. We'll get to that, but that's not what I meant. I hope when you open a bottle, especially nowadays, you and whoever's around you, y'all can finish it rather than putting it away. But also about what to do with a collection that you might have, or ones that you're gifted, or ones that you're like buying from all over, right? So how to store? So I'm using this is a wine bottle, but I'm using this bottle just to like for representational purposes mostly. When you store a bottle of wine upright, the cork tends to dry out, right? Because there's no interaction with the liquid, so it tends to dry out, and it shrivels a bit. And what happens then is air gets in, and until your wine is in a bottle, air is the enemy. Oxygen is the enemy. Okay, you don't want air to get in because it will ruin your wine. So wines that have corks should always be placed like this. Place them on the side, on the belly, so that the wine can come in contact with the cork and keep it moist and keep it tight so that it does not spoil. Okay, wines with screw caps do not have that issue. So it's easy. You can store them upright, and that's fine. Always try and store it in a cool and dark space. Keep them in your fridge. There's no harm keeping them in your fridge if most of us don't have cellars. So just keep them in your fridge. At least the precious ones, at least the ones that you want to save for very long. And if you have a wine cellar or a wine fridge, well, that's ideal. Yeah. Okay. So also when you're serving your wine, always serve your wines cool. Okay, both white and red wines should always be served cool. When people say, "Oh, red wine is to be drunk at room temperature," they do not mean Indian room temperatures. That's the heat here is insane, and wines both white and red always taste better cool. Okay, even red wine stays better cool. So just stick them in your fridge. If you know you're going to be using them later that night and they aren't in your fridge, stick them in your fridge. Maybe take them out maybe take the red wine out about 10 minutes before you're ready to drink it. And it'll drop temperature a little bit for it to be at the ideal drinking temperature. And you'll notice as you're drinking it, as it warms up, there are different notes that come about. It gets softer, easier, sort of changes mildly within the glass, and that's fine. It's fine to have that evolution. It's great to have that evolution, in fact. But make sure that your wines are served cool. So the normal temperatures that they say you should serve your white wines at is between 12 and 14. Between 8 and 12. And for red wines, like between 12 and 18. I think 14 actually is sort of like 14, 15 is sort of like a sweet spot. And typically, if you're taking a wine out of the fridge and leaving it out for 10 minutes, it'll get to that temperature. Yeah. So try that. And that way, it's also easier to drink your red wines in the summer. If you're not cooling your red wines, then it's a little too hot already. It's 37 degrees, I think, today. So yeah, not very conducive to that, right? Okay. What should we leave with next, guys? Any questions? See some claps and hearts. Let's talk a little bit about glassware. So again, right now is not the best time, maybe, for us to be talking about glassware, but hopefully this will all end soon, and hopefully at some point we will all get out and be able to foolproof our houses for the next time that this happens. But this would be a typical white wine glass, and maybe something like this would be a red wine glass. Yeah. Now I realize that if you're not drinking wine very often, or you're not having people at home to drink wine with, or large groups, it's really cumbersome to have both a whole set of white and red. I like what you'll notice between this is the size difference. So the bowl of the glasses is different. The length of the stem, the height, etc. is different. And this has narrower mouth than the red ones do, right? For me, what I think a glass like this is sort of multi-purpose. So it has like a wide bowl, but then it tapers up quite a bit. And I think it's nice to have a single-use glass and all-purpose glass at home that you can, like a wine glass that you can use across, um, uh, across both whites and reds, and that's completely fine. Um, there's also the idea of stemless glasses, so it's essentially something like this with a base. I like stemless glasses, especially for parties at home, for whenever we can have parties at home again. But I like the idea of them because they don't get knocked over so quickly. The problem is again temperature, because you're holding those around, and sometimes it's people are just very conditioned to drinking wine from a wine glass, and there is a romance to being able to swirl and hold it and be like pretty and dainty with it. So I understand if you're not a firm believer in stemless glass. I yo-yo a bit. For my sparkling wines, I don't like those extremely long flutes. Extremely slender flutes. It doesn't allow you to taste the full extent of the wine, especially if you're drinking a really nice sparkling wine. I much prefer wines that wine glasses that have a slightly wider shape and then taper a little bit, but it also has more of a mouth, and so it allows you to taste your wines a lot better. So consider that if at any point you're thinking of buying just like a very slender um, flute, look at another option. Okay. Okay. This how to open your wines. I'm not going to show you how to open your wines. I get a lot of the reason why I discussed a little bit about glassware is I've been getting a lot of questions in general about what glassware to have. A lot of people seem to have been deciding what to do with their home bars in these days and how to spruce their bars up, and so they want to know what glasses to have. There is on my Instagram. If you're on Instagram, I'm at gigglewater411. There's a video up there that I put up recently about even giving brands that are available in India and their price points. So check that out if you're looking to buy something. And also there's a video on how to use this handy tool, which actually is the best tool as far as a wine opener goes. This is my favorite and most sommeliers, most wine connoisseurs' favorite favorite wine tool. It's called Waiter's Friend. So it has a couple of different parts. Okay, so you have this, which is sort of a serrated knife. There's this, which is the lever, and always look for a double lever if you're looking to buy one, or if you have one at home and you want to know which is the most precious. I know a lot of those have the rabbit ear ones, which are also good, but this is way more legit. So try this there. So look for a double lever one, and then you have the screw and the handle. Okay, this is what it looks like. I'm not going to open a wine today, but again, check out Giggle Water. There's a video there on how to open it. It's really easy to use. I know a lot of people think that this is difficult, but it's really easy to use. So try it out. When you're opening screw caps, there's no real trick to it. But what tends to happen very often is, and it happens because of the heat, is both these points, where the meeting is, they tend to merge, and so you keep turning the whole thing around, and then it's really annoying because you have to sit with a knife and sort of chip away. A trick to avoid that: hold your bottle like this. So hold it on the neck, right, and the other hand here, and you turn the bottle. So let's see if you can hear this. So I'm holding it here. I'm not holding the actual cap, and then I'm turning the bottle. Can you hear that? And then it just splits and comes away. And then you can open your bottle of wine and you're good. So if you tend to have that problem very often, and a lot of Indian wines, actually not just Indian, but a lot of entry level daily drinking wines tend to have that problem with their screw caps. So that's something that you can do. How much wine to pour? Maybe let's do that. So if you're using a glass like this, the widest part of the bowl is the ideal amount that you should pour. So it would be just about that much. The reason why you would do this is, one, it won't sort of lose temperature, and it allows you like enough room and enough space to allow your wine to breathe and swirl and do all of those things. Yeah. Perfect. And how long, that seems to be a very common question as well. How long can you keep bottle of wine once it's open? Consider that when you open it, you finished about half. The problem with a wine, or how a wine spoils, is most often because of the oxygen. So it gets oxidized, which is the formal word that you would use. And an oxidized wine is, it starts to taste papery. It loses flavor. It loses a lot of those notes that you would typically like. So in order to, like if you're storing a red wine, for instance, within 2 or 3 days, ideally, after opening it, if it's in the fridge, should be good. You can push it to 4, maybe 5, maybe like check on the 4th day to see how it's doing, and then don't push it anymore. But if you've had a wine that you finished a lot of, so like this one, for instance, there's only that much that's been taken out, so there's only that much air. So the chances of the oxygen oxidizing all of this, it's going to take longer, right? Whereas if you have half a bottle full of air and the rest, the air is acting a lot quicker on the wine, and so it will not last as long. So consider that, and don't keep your wines in the fridge or wherever too long. Definitely keep them in the fridge as soon as you open them. Keeping them out, especially in weather in our Indian summers right now, it's not a good idea. And cooking with wine. Yeah, that's the last thing. Cooking with wine. If you have a wine that's bad, can you cook with it? No. Okay, please don't. The whole point of go by this rule. If you wouldn't drink a glass of this wine, then don't put it in your food, because what's happening when you're putting it in the food is, you're sort of, cooking away the alcohol, but you're concentrating all of those flavors. And if those flavors are off, then that's what you're concentrating in your pasta and your meat and whatever it is that you are making. So don't use a wine you think is past its prime. Don't use a bad wine in your cooking. It's not going to work very well. What you can do is, if you feel like it's just way off, there are recipes online of how to change it, how to make it into vinegar quickly, and then keep that to use as cooking vinegar to do your marinades or whatever else it is that you want, instead of buying fresh vinegar. But that's fine. Just don't use bad wine in making your food, guys. It doesn't work. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. I know it breaks your heart sometimes to throw away wine, but that's why you drink it quicker, right? Okay. Let me know if these tips have been useful. Okay, even whether it's now or later, whenever you're watching it, let me know if these tips are useful. If you have questions, we're looking at maybe doing a couple of more of these. I write and I consult with beverages, so with wine and spirits and beer. If you have questions about anything else and you want to want us to shift maybe from wine to gin or whiskey, we can always do that. But any questions you have, leave them to me at gigglewater411 on Instagram or on the POPxo Instagram handles, and or on the app maybe, and and then we can maybe deal with them then. In the meanwhile, thank you for. I think if I missed any questions. I hope this wine care has been useful. I hope there are a few things that you consider that you've been doing. Maybe you've been doing wrong, and I hope it makes it a lot better. In the meanwhile, thank you for giving me a chance to get dressed, put on a face, and start my Friday night early. It's been a while. I hope you're doing well. I hope your wine stash is staying happy and healthy. And I will perhaps see you next week. So take care and cheers. See you guys. Bye.